Hello and welcome. This is the Disability Law Show. John Scholes here, and joining me in just a moment, Sivan Tumarkin, co-founding partner, Samfiru Tumarkin, LLP, the most positively reviewed law firm in this country. So you can reach out to Sivan and his team anytime. How do you do it? 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. That's the email address you use anytime. We'll get to some of those on the show today. And there's also another place for you to use. Ask questions to Sivan and his team, free and anonymous, mydisabilityquestions.com. Again, mydisabilityquestions.com. It's free, it's anonymous, got a searchable database, so quite possibly a question that's floating around in your mind to ask on that website has been asked previously. It'll save you some time. If not, leave it there. Sivan's crew will get to it. CPP disability, long-term disability. What is the difference? We'll break it down later on the show and give you some key points about both of those. But we always start every show, Sivan, with the week that was, a situation you've been working on. In the meantime, what say you, pal?
John, it's great to be here with you and with our audience. You know, I had it prepared today to tell you about an interesting case that I've been dealing with, but I'm gonna hold off on that. And what I want to talk about a bit is about psychological claims, psychological long-term disability claims, and specifically what comes to mind right now is the situation. Global situation that we're facing in Ukraine. I can tell you I have family and friends in Ukraine, and I've been speaking to a lot of people, and I'm not going to get into politics here except to tell you that it is traumatic for not just the people there, but obviously family members and friends everywhere in the world who are looking at what is going on. And so to tie it back to what we are talking about here, you know, Canada is a land of immigrants. We have a lot of people here that have come from different countries. Some people are first generation, some people are second generation, etc. And a lot of these individuals who are in Canada, who are thankful to be in Canada, understand that although we are safe here, many of their family and friends are not safe in other parts of the world. And so what happens is that creates tremendous psychological issues, right? Aside from the day-to-day things that we have, you know, not withstanding COVID, but even work situations, personal life situations. What's happening right now globally, I've talked to quite a few people who are in depression, who are extremely anxious, who you know, can't do their work. And so that leads me to the discussion of psychological claims in the context of long-term disability. And for years, insurance companies have been putting up roadblocks and have been very difficult to deal with. When someone says, look, I have PTSD, or I have a phobia of some sort, or I have severe anxiety, etc. Diagnoses which are recognized by the medical community. And they have doctors on their side that have diagnosed them with these conditions and have said that they cannot work at this point in time. And they then do what normal people would do, which is apply for a disability, right? Not to be on it forever, but to be on it right now until they get better, until they can get all the treatments that they need. And what happens? They apply for long-term disability and they get a rejection. They get a denial from insurance companies. I've seen this time and time again. My entire team in Ontario, in British Columbia, in Alberta, we speak with people every day who are denied long-term disability claims unjustly, unfairly, and in my view, in quite a few instances, illegally, where the insurance company simply ignores the facts on the ground and ignores what the doctors are saying. And so the message I have for you, for anybody out there who is either in that situation where you've been rejected or denied long-term disability from your insurance company, whichever insurance company it is, contact us, speak with us. We have a team of lawyers, not just me, team of lawyers, team of professionals in all three of these provinces, and we help people deal with insurance companies. That's what we do. We force insurance companies to pay these kinds of claims. And many of them, disproportionately so, are psychologically driven claims. Incidentally, you can have an injury or an illness that is physiological, right? The physical limitations, but oftentimes that is intertwined with the psychological. Because if you're in chronic pain, for example, you've had an accident, whatever that was, and you can't sleep, you're going to be depressed. You're going to suffer from depression. You're going to suffer from anxiety, sleep deprivation. And so it's important to understand that you have options. And if you know someone in that situation, again, John, you're going to give people the websites where to get free information. And also, when you speak with us, when you call us, it's all free. It's free to speak with any of our lawyers, our paralegals, to get the information you need to understand what your rights are. Do not simply accept the denial from the insurance company. Do not appeal those denials. speak with us first. It costs absolutely nothing, and you'll know exactly what your options are.
Well, like Sivan said, it's really easy to get a hold of him and his team, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. You know, it's interesting you bring up the psychological component of disability and disability claims with insurance companies. Unlike a broken back, or if you're off of that, if you're getting treatment for cancer or another disease, I mean, there's evidence there, there's visual evidence, for lack of a better term. But when you start talking about mental disabilities and things that are going to keep you off work in that nature, doesn't always show up in an X-ray or an MRI or a CT scan. So is that the reason why there's a much higher rate of denial from insurance companies?
I think that there are two reasons. I think one of them is exactly what you just said. They can't see depression on an X-ray, unlike a broken bone. So I think that there is an issue in terms of the insurance companies being skeptical. And listen, people out there would say that there are people who have been trying to defraud the system for years. And I understand that, and I don't disagree. Incidentally, I come from a defense insurance background. So I used to protect insurance companies. I've seen some people who try to scam the system, but the vast majority of people do not do that. They're not trying to do that. And certainly doctors who are putting pen to paper, who are explaining why their patients are unable to work, and their letters and reports and recommendations are ignored by insurance companies, that's not fair. So that's number one. Insurance companies are skeptical. I'll give them that. But in many instances, I have seen denials, even though there was overwhelming evidence from the physicians, from specialists in support of these claims. The second reason that I see, I've concluded, in my mind at least, and then certainly many of my colleagues agree with me, is that I think insurance companies understand that people who are psychologically in a bad state, who are suffering from a psychological impairment, they are in a very vulnerable state. They're in a very vulnerable place. And so for the insurance company to say, we're not going to pay you, many of these individuals just simply do not have the mental power, the ability to actually take on this insurance company. And that's where we come in. That's where we say to people, you don't have to take on the insurance company. No one's expecting you to. We understand that you feel this imbalance of power. The whole point is that you should be bringing us into the picture. Again, not to go back and be political, but disproportionate amount of force now being used by Russia against Ukraine. We're talking about, we are those American weapons. We are the power that you can bring on your side to take on the insurance company, where the insurance company has not done what it is contractually obligated to do, which is pay you income replacement under those LTD policies, which are contracts, and force the insurance company to do what they're supposed to do. So that's where we come in. So I think, John, you're right. Insurance companies disproportionately deny these kinds of claims for a whole range of reasons, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because when we come in, we call them on all of these things and we push back.
Now, I want to mention just briefly, your partner, of course, Lior Samfiru, handles the Employment Law Show, our sister show that people like to watch as well before and after this and any other time online. And within that show, we always talk about something, a website, a tool called pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Now, that obviously pocketemploymentlawyer.ca, it's baked into the title. It's for employment, but there is a reason why we mention on this show, isn't there?
It is, we do. And I'll give Lior credit here. It was his idea. The whole idea behind that website was to create a very quick, efficient, accurate, free tool for insurance companies to be able to simply get answers to the most common questions about their circumstances. No two cases are alike, whether it's an employment law or disability law or really any kind of law. And so what we did is we created this Pocket Employment Lawyer, this website, where people can get accurate answers about their own situations. So you input a few key pieces of information about your situation, nothing that identifies you or the company, just a few pieces of information that then allows this program to give you accurate answers. You don't go to Google, forget about Dr. Google. And so the reason why we're talking about it here, this is not an employment law show, this is a disability law show, is because many people who are having issues at work are also on long-term disability, and they have parallel issues with their insurance companies. And so if you go to Pocket Employment Lawyer, you'll see that there is an area there where, again, you can get free and accurate answers to your long-term disability questions. So it's a double whammy, right? You can get 2 for 1 here. Very simple. And at the end, when you get those answers, if you want to get in touch with us, there is a button that allows you to do that. If you don't, that's fine. Close the browser and that's that. But Pocket Employment Lawyer, John, it's been used thousands of times across the country by people all over, and it's just a phenomenal website, and many people have really raved about it. So I really urge people, even if you don't have any employment or disability issues, just go to it and just check it out. You may tell your family and friends when you see it.
Again, free and anonymous anytime. Pocketemploymentlawyer.ca is where that is found. Sivan, first email for the show. Let's get to it. Again, help@disabilityrights.ca. Help@disabilityrights.ca. This one from Carrie. Carrie says, I was on LTD due to severe anxiety and depression, but was forced back to work by my insurer after being off for nearly a year. I've only been back in the job for a week, but I'm not sure I can continue much longer. What are my options?
That's an excellent question, John. It's something we see quite often. Again, this ties back to what we discussed before about anxiety and depression and how insurance companies often use that against disabled people to deny their claims. In this case, this person clearly was on LTD before and then says that the insurance company forced them to go back to work. Remember that the insurance company has no power over you. You may perceive that they have power. You may think that they are able to force you back to work, but they cannot force you to do anything. What I think this person meant is that the insurance company has pressured them to go back to work, presumably before they were ready to go back. And they do that by saying that if you don't try to go back, we're going to cut off your payments, your LTD payments. Well, here's the problem with that. If you go back to work and you're simply not ready, you're going to fail, much like this individual here. And if you do go back to work and you don't fail and you go and you start getting money from your employer, which you should, well, the problem there, and not the problem, I mean, it's a good thing for you, but the insurance company still gets a benefit in that they don't have to pay you. So it's a win-win for the insurance company. But, to tie it back to this question here, what are the options now that the return to work attempt has failed? Well, the option is to tell the insurance company and the doctors, obviously, what's going on. And virtually every LTD policy out there contains a recurrence clause. It's a provision in the LTD policy that acts as a safety net in these situations, meaning that if within a certain period of time you're unable to continue in that return to work attempt, you should be able to go back on LTD immediately. You should not have to wait the initial elimination period, which is usually a few months where you don't get paid anything. You should be able to go back on LTD right now. The problem, again, is in these situations, many insurance companies deny these attempts for the person to go back on LTD. And what we tell people is, look, you have these rights. As long as your doctor confirms that the attempt to work failed and that you should be back on LTD, your insurance company should put you back on LTD. So if that happens, if you try to go back and are unsuccessful, the insurance company says, we're not going to pay you for whatever reason, you call us immediately. You email us, you do whatever you need to do to get in touch with us, because we'll tell you what your options are, and you do have options. Insurance companies understand that they have to put you back on LTD, but they take, they gamble. They take the risk that, if they tell you and many others that they're not going to put you back on claim, many of these claimants, John, will simply walk away from their rights. They won't do anything about that. A few people will fight, yes, and they will get their benefits reinstated, but many people will walk away and the insurance company will then keep their money. So again, make sure that if you try to go back to work, you document everything with your doctor. If you're unable to continue in that attempt to work, you let your doctors know. You get a letter from them explaining why it is that the attempt to return to work has not worked, and that you need to be back on LTD, and you give that to your adjuster. And if there's any hint of them saying no to you, of going to deny your claim, you let us know immediately and we will help.
We'll take a short break. Key things to know about CPP disability. This is good stuff, so stick around for it. In the meantime, the number 1-855-821-5900. And again, that email address, help@disabilityrights.ca. We'll continue. Lots more Disability Law Show is coming up. People think contractors aren't owed severance. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Many contractors are actually employees and are entitled to full severance pay. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. How do you force insurance companies to pay long-term disability claims?
Insurance companies deny legitimate claims all the time. They're playing the odds. They know that most people are just going to walk away.
Your insurer may ignore you. They may even ignore your doctors, but they can't ignore us.
We know how insurance companies work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to use the legal process to force them to pay you what you're owed.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. people think you are only owed 2 weeks' pay when you lose your job. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. You may be owed much more than 2 weeks per year. Don't settle for less. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Alrighty, welcome back. Thanks so much for hanging in. Disability Law Show again this week. Sivan Tumarkin beside me, co-founding partners, Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. They are the most positively reviewed law firm in the country. Reaching out, here you go, 1-855-821-5900. The number, email help@disabilityrights.ca or mydisabilityquestions.com. Free and anonymous website. Use it anytime to ask any other questions, and Sivan's team will get to it. Okay, I want to break this down, Sivan. Really important topic today because it involves so many people out there listening and watching to our radio show and our TV show. The difference, the key differences, and what are CPP disability versus long-term disability. They are not the same thing, correct?
They're not the same thing, and I understand why it may be confusing for people, and there are many questions on this topic. And by the way, John, one website we should throw out there for people is ltdfaq.ca. ltdfaq.ca. It's a website we've created, my team created a few months back, and it's for individuals out there. It's a free website, contains short memos in English, not in legal jargon, for regular people out there to explain the basic concepts like CPP disability, long-term disability, and all those kinds of things. So just check it out, and you will see a memo about CPP disability. Now, CPP disability is a government program, right? This is through the federal government of Canada, whereas long-term disability, these are typically contracts through insurance companies. Name an insurance company and they'll probably have a program for long-term disability. So typically it's either a policy for income replacement benefits that you purchase privately, or more often, the way we see it is through group benefits. When you're employed by a company, they may have benefits, and one of the perks, one of the benefits you may have is long-term disability. Those are two different things. One is a government program, CPP disability, and one is a private insurance contract. And it's important to understand that they're not mutually exclusive. You can get both. You can get long-term disability and you can get CPP disability. And in fact, there are arguments as to why it is that when you apply for long-term disability, you may also want to apply for CPP disability. We'll get to that later, but that's the basic distinction, that those are two programs. The other thing, by the way, I want to mention is CPP disability is generally capped. I don't know what it is now. I think it's around $1,600, maybe $1,700 max a month that you can get. Long-term disability, depending on your specific policy plan, depending on your salary, depending on what group benefits you have, if it's through work, they can go very high. I mean, I've seen LTD benefits in excess of $10,000 a month. So it's really important to understand that the quantums are very different. And frankly, the test to get them, the qualifications you need to meet to get those two programs are somewhat different. There are similarities, but they're also somewhat different.
Well, you mentioned applying for LTD and doing CPP. So if you're applying for LTD coverage, or at least a claim anyway, should you apply also for CPP at the same time?
I believe yes. And, I say I believe yes because in my experience, it's helpful to you. And there are different reasons for that. I'll outline a few. Incidentally, some lawyers will say don't do it. And I think sometimes when they say that, it's more to their benefit than to yours. There is a major benefit of applying for CPP disability, which is that once you apply for it, if you receive it, you've now essentially almost guaranteed yourself another source of income. That's not to say that if you get CPP disability and you get LTD, that you get both, one stacked on top of each other. No. In fact, your long-term disability insurance company gets a credit for whatever amount you receive from CPP disability. So, simple example, let's say you get $3,000 from your insurance company for LTD, and you got approved for $1,500 a month from CPP disability. You don't get $3,000 plus $1,500. You still get $3,000. Right? The insurance company simply gets a credit for the $1,500 you get from CPP disability. But here's the thing. If you get cut off LTD at some point in the future and we have to fight them, CPP disability continues to pay you. So it does give you a sort of a lifeline. The other reason why I tell people you should apply is because if you get approved for CPP disability, you can turn around to the insurance company and say, look, the government of Canada has agreed that I am disabled from working. Arguably, it's a tougher test to meet even to get CPP disability. And so that usually stops insurance companies in their tracks when they come back and say, we're not going to give you LTD because we don't believe that you are disabled from working or sufficiently disabled from working. Well, if you get CPP disability, that argument goes out the window, arguably. So there are many other advantages as well. But I always tell people, if you apply for LTD, you should also apply for CPP disability.
Now, when it comes to CPP, if you're denied CPP, you can appeal, but you may not need to, right?
You may not need to, exactly. And you know, John, some people say to me, I don't want to apply for CPP disability. I feel that the insurance company should be paying me the entire amount. And I tell them, okay, except that many LTD policies contain provisions that obligate you as a claimant on claim to apply for CPP disability. And so if you choose not to apply for CPP disability, the insurance company may then estimate how much they think you ought to be getting had you applied for CPP disability and been approved. And then they may deduct that hypothetical amount from your monthly LTD. Now, what happens in a case like you mentioned, where somebody applies for CPP disability and it gets denied? Well, presumably at that point, the insurance company cannot then deduct whatever it is that they say you ought to be getting from CPP disability from what they're paying you. But some insurance companies will go further and say, well, wait a second, you got denied? Fine, we want you to appeal that. Well, as to whether or not you have an obligation to appeal is rooted in whether or not there is a provision in your LTD policy that says that you must appeal. The vast majority of policies that I have seen do not contain that provision. And what that means is that if you get denied for CPP disability, the insurance company cannot force you or pressure you to, in fact, appeal that denial from CPP disability. You can certainly still do that. Nothing's stopping you, whether you by yourself or hiring a paralegal or a lawyer or going to legal aid, you can certainly do that. But the point is the insurance company cannot force you. If, however, your LTD policy contains a provision that says that if denied, you must appeal, well, then you need to appeal the CPP denial because it's in the contract of insurance. It's in the LTD policy. So again, everything goes back to what the LTD policy says. And even though many of these LTD policies are similar, some of them are identical almost, there are slight differences, and you do need to be familiar with your policy.
We like to, bookend these type of segments with kind of an overall warning, not a warning, but some advice, and that is if you are cut off or denied your LTD, always reach out to you, always reach out to a disability lawyer. It's too big to handle on your own.
100%. You're absolutely correct. Listen, if I need a tooth extracted, I'm not doing it myself. Okay, I'm going to a dentist. If I need heart surgery, God forbid, I'm going to go to a heart surgeon. And you can give many of these examples. If you are dealing with an insurance company that has denied your claims or is giving you problems, maybe you're still on claim, but they're asking you to do things which concern you, give us a call. This is what we do. I mean, we fight these insurance companies. We are not only are we lawyers that specialize in this area of law, we know the defense lawyers. We have relationships with them, those same defense lawyers that protect these insurance companies when we start these legal claims against them. So my point is, this is what we do. It's our expertise. So again, come to us, talk to us for free. And here's the thing, if at the end of the day you don't want to do what we tell you, that's fine, no issues. We're not going to pressure you, but at least you'll be armed with the right information. And at that point, you'll know what your options are, and then you'll decide what's the right thing for you to do.
We've made several references during the show to a website called mydisabilityquestions.com. That is where we're going to go for a question after a short break. And as we get into that break, I'll give you the number again, 1-855-821-5900 and help@disabilityrights.ca through email as well. We'll continue. Disability Law Show, lots more to go.
People think you have to sign back a severance offer by a deadline. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Deadlines are used as a pressure tactic. Make sure the offer is fair before you sign. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Can insurance companies deny long-term disability claims for mental illness?
When you're suffering from a mental health disability, insurance companies just don't understand. But we do.
They can absolutely not force you back to work. If your doctors say you are not ready and you know you're not ready, they cannot make you go back to work.
If you have a mental health disability and your claim is denied, don't give up. Give us a call and let us fight for you.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you aren't owed severance pay if you are fired for a reason. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Most for-cause terminations are false, and you are still owed full severance. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Okay, welcome back. A few minutes to go. Let's get to it again. Reaching out anytime to Sivan and his crew. 1-855-821-5900. Email help@disabilityrights.ca. And as we mentioned several times through the show, mydisabilityquestions.com. Free, anonymous website for you to ask questions, again, for Sivan and his entire team, which is where we're going right now, pal. So buckle in for this one. Bilal writes in, says, my claim for LTD was denied despite ongoing chronic pain and support from 2 doctors. The insurance company told me that my best option right now is to file an appeal. Is that true?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's what insurance companies want you to do. They want you to appeal that decision. Why? Because then they retain the power to deny you again and again and again. And John, this is something we've been talking about for years now on our TV shows, on our radio shows. Insurance companies try to do whatever they can to get people off claim and then give them an opportunity to, again, just spin their wheels like a hamster on a wheel. That's what they're doing to you. Understand that when they're offering you to appeal that decision, they're not offering you a third-party review. They're not offering some kind of an arbitration or even a meeting with the ombudsperson of the insurance company. No, they're asking you to essentially resubmit the documentation you have. Maybe if you have any other documents, I'll usually tell you, give us something else if you have it and we'll review it. But the reality is that you are essentially re-asking the exact same people who denied you in the first place, the exact same corporate entity, to re-examine your case and perhaps come to a different conclusion. And they have zero incentive to do that. Instead, the alternative is to start a legal claim, which is what we do here. We take the fight to the insurance company, we take the power out of their hands, and insurance companies understand and know that at the end of the day, if they don't become reasonable in how they handle your claim, if they don't pay you what you are owed, if they don't negotiate with us in good faith, they will end up in front of a judge and they will get hammered. And we have many examples across Canada of insurance companies doing just that, and not only getting hammered by a judge and having judges force them to pay what these individuals are owed under those policies, but also judges awarding punitive damages against these insurance companies for bad faith conduct. So do not be fooled by those offers of appeal that you will see on a rejection letter that comes to you by mail or by email. This is when you contact us. We will talk to you for free. We'll review everything that you have. And within minutes, we will tell you what your rights are. And then you can decide if you want to actually appeal or if you want to do what is more of a sane option, which is to start that legal claim, take the fight to them. Let us do the fighting, not you. But we know what we're doing. This is what we've done for many years, and we are on your side, and we will help you.
In that appeal process, they won't do it just once. They'll let you do it a bunch of times, too, which is not good as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pretty good, Bilal. Appreciate the correspondence. Again, mydisabilityquestions.com is what Bilal used. You can use that any time as well. It's free. It's anonymous. You can search it to see if your question has been asked in the before. Other ways to reach out as we wrap up here, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. And I know, as Sivan mentioned, our radio show, we've been doing this for almost a decade right across the country. It's an hour long. Sometime we pull phone calls and play them back in this show. You should tune in for sure. Disabilityrights.ca is the firm website. There's a media drop down there, and that will give you route to an AM station somewhere across the country where you can catch us weekly. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time here on this TV show, The Disability Law Show.
People think you should go to the government to get severance pay. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Government can only help you get minimum severance, but not everything you're entitled to. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.